is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at DorothyLaneMusic.com. Yeah. Hello, welcome to another edition of Ruel's Running Podcast. How are you? How am I? I'm okay. Pretty busy. Been super busy. And I'm just praying to God above. Praying for favor. I'm praying for good things in my life. Miracles. Things that are supernatural. Things that I cannot explain and comprehend, but it will work in my favor. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm praying. How about you? I don't talk about God. I don't talk about praying much on this podcast after it's been around for like a gazillion years with no listeners. But that's what's up. You know, and then I just carry on. Carry on. I pray. I carry on. Have faith. I carry on, and I struggle. I carry on despite the struggle. And you know what? Teach my kids the same. Any of you folks have kids? Any of you folks have kids who have to explain to your young kids, like, you know what? Shit happens. Yeah. And get used to it. Not to say, like, life is full of shit and you're supposed to feel awful all the time, but just to accept that it happens. It's just how you deal with it, right? As they say, whoever they are, because they are very smart, those brilliant minds. It's not about the struggle. It's not about the failure. It's how you pick yourself up. It's how you rebound, right? What beats you in the ass only makes you stronger, right? Every time I take a shit and I have like diarrhea, what a fiery a-hole, it makes me stronger when I get out of that bathroom. It makes me so strong. And I'm sorry that I'm starting this podcast talking about a-holes and buttholes and fire. But I'm fired up. Yeah. It's, you know, kids are like, oh, I don't feel good. I feel scared. I feel worried. I'm like, yeah. Thank you for telling me. Because you know what? When I was a kid and I felt scared and I felt worried, I didn't tell anybody. It wasn't the end of the world, though. It was just like, I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm scared. La cucaracha is ginormous and it flies. Because that's what they do on Guam. They're ginormous and they fly. Right? And they fly and then like they buzz around you and you're like, ah! Right? Sometimes they fly on you and then you're like, you freak out and then you brush them away. And then you're like, you feel like, oh my God, a cockroach touched me, oh my God. Right? It's not like it gave me a headlock and punched me in the nose, you know? Or like farted in my face. It's just like, it's trying to figure out what to do. Like, oh my God, I'm discovered, right? What do I do? I fly around. I don't know. I'm not a good flyer. Oh my God, I'm flying in front of this kid. I'm flying in front of this stupid little brown kid. I think he's Filipino, but he's living on Guam. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm landing on his face. Oh my God, he smacked me away. I better fly away some other direction. I just can't fly good. That's what the cockroaches say. And that's what the cockroaches do. And that's what kids do. That's what I did when I was a scared little shit, right? I didn't tell anybody. I just was scared and worried and all that stuff. And here I am. What have I become? I've become a podcaster. Podcasters. You know what, podcasters? I'm with you. Welcome to another show. Hey, everybody. So, I just thought about how I'm going to approach the rest of the year as it pertains to health and running, all that good stuff. So I figured, I want to enjoy the holidays, so I am going to appropriately put life into living during the holidays, and then look forward to, outside of the holidays, doing my best to, no sugar, no grains, and also alongside, make plans to get back into some level of training, get fit for, I do want to get good and strong and good and fit for some long runs, and I am going to see if I could get the green light to do the Aloni again, the Aloni 50K. And the tough part is, as I mentioned in past episodes, is out on the course there's no way that you generally will have access to cell signal, at least on my network. There are spots, on the climb where there is no interference and you can get some level of service, but this past year, this year, early in May when I did it, and there was a course change. I was out 11 hours, significantly shot as far as having a level of cell coverage, so that didn't fly, and that was a problem. So I don't know. I think I told my wife after the thing, because she was kind of concerned about not being reachable, that, well, maybe I won't do it again, and I'll just figure something else out. So I need to still consider the possibility that I'm not going to do that event and just coordinate my own long run. At any rate, it gets down to trying to target a decent run and working towards it. It's about it's about the journey. Earlier it was about how you pick yourself up after struggle, but sometimes that journey is the struggle, that struggle is the journey, and that's probably where it's the most meaningful, and not so much about the final event, but it's about how you get there. And we'll see. I want to create my own journey, create my own struggle, and see how it turns out. Yeah, and again, getting back to NSNG, cutting back on the wonderful, enjoyable pastime of drinking alcohol. It's still is enjoyable, but it kind of gets old. Actually, it doesn't get old, I get old. This is what I'm learning. When I don't take care of myself, when I don't when I am not good old NSNG, and when I am, turning on the volume as far as alcohol consumption, what it is doing is, I think it's speeding up the aging process. Oh my God. And I've seen the other way where, you have success. I've seen it where with success in NSNG, you cut the weight and you also look younger. You look like a different person. And, I need to get back there. just because it's healthier. Yeah. And I need to replace my time having an alcoholic drink with something healthy and just as fun. And I don't know what that is. It might just be doing a shit ton of jump rope. Because jump rope and a glass of scotch is exactly the same thing.
Do you need a website? If you're an individual, a consultant, a group, or small business and need a site, or maybe you have an existing site, I can help. How about graphic design? Do you need a design for a t-shirt, logo, product, business cards? Maybe you need help with designing and developing a brand. I'm not an expert, but I do have the tools and the techniques to get the job done. How about a podcast? Yep, like this thing. This thing's a silly little show. Are you looking to set up a podcast of your own? Are you looking to reach an audience? Promote your business via podcast? Well, Abadam Studios. That's right, Abadam Studios. Yeah, so that's Abadam Studios. AbadamStudios.com, AbadamStudios.com. Check it out.
Speaking of struggle, I read, and I apologize if I already said this, but I'm going to be talking like I've never said it before. You just said that. You're an idiot. One of the coolest things that I read was written up by a friend who witnessed a family, two kids, a bigger brother and a younger brother. Was at a grocery store with their mom, and the little kid wanted what his older brother had in his hand, and it was a package of light sticks. So the little brother fussed about wanting one. So then, the mom made the bigger kid give one of them to the little brother, and that soothed the little brother. And then as they were getting ready to complete checkout, the older brother took the light stick back from the younger brother. The younger brother was crying, was upset. And what the older brother did was, by this time, the purchase was complete. The older brother took after he took the light stick back from his younger brother, he cracked it. And then he shook it and he handed it back to his brother. And then now the younger brother had the light stick, but this time it was glowing. It was bright. And the older brother said that sometimes, he said, to see the full effect, you had to break it. And so my friend shared that story that she observed, she witnessed, and it was kind of like, if you think about it, to see the full effect of something, it has to be broken. And if you think about struggle, sometimes we ourselves have to be broken, because it's what happens after we are broken. What do we become? And if we persist, if we press on, then we can demonstrate to ourselves, to the world, our full effect, what we have to offer in this life at the moment. There's more to us. Just because we're broken doesn't mean that there isn't more to us. So that was a beautiful story, and I wanted to share that with you, and I appreciate it. And it's something that I remember, and sometimes when I have to teach the kids about struggle and how there can be brilliance past that point, that struggle, that being broken, when you feel like you're broken. So there you go. So I've been thinking about things creative. There are certain people who are creative.
some more creative than others. Some creative in a thing and stronger in that thing than other people who, where the other people could be creative as well, but in something else. Does that make sense? I like to think of myself as creative, and I'll like this past Halloween, I made my son's mask. It's not just sketching out the design, but then also figuring out, how to get it colored. But it's also having to do with figuring out what sort of material is going to be used as the mask, and how are you going to figure out fastening the mask on. So, the choice of material is foam board. So then it becomes, how do you shape the foam core board in a way that you want. So that entails using an X-Acto blade, X-Acto knife, and sort of carving, all of that good stuff. Thinking through how to reinforce the thing and what sort of material is available either already somewhere in the house, or having to look around craft stores or even home improvement stores to see what sort of material is there, whether it's straps or what do you call it, Velcro material, so you sort of become crafty, right? And so my son's like, wow, you're pretty good at drawing, but I'll just produce things, and they wouldn't have imagined that I was capable of doing things like that. And that to me is, yes, I'm creative and I can do stuff like that, and I do want to share those things with my kids. It's just, there's just so much more that I can produce, but I'm just not going to go out producing things for the sake of producing things. Or creating things, since we're talking about being creative. There has to be a reason, right? The reason for this was I needed to help my son with a mask. So I created something. When I was getting married, my wife and I, my fiance at the time, obviously, were planning everything out, and I envisioned some sort of container that would hold things like cards, and it wasn't just going to be like a basket. People can drop a card or an envelope in a basket. It had to be meaningful to our theme and who we are and stuff like that, where we come from. So I envisioned my interpretation of what's called a Chamorro hut. Chamorro meaning, the beautiful people, the native people from the island of Guam. And my wife and I, not being of Chamorro descent, but we were born and raised on the island, and we value the culture so much, and we do feel it's a part of us nonetheless. So, I envisioned a hut that would hold these cards. There's no instructions. There are no blueprints. There's no website that, or YouTube video on how to do it. There's just imagery of what a hut looks like, And so I went around and found material and turned it into what I envisioned and better. So anyways, I think the topic of
creativity is cool. And like, how do you create things? And sometimes I wonder too that being a creative person is a hindrance, because maybe being creative means you're not, a different way that you sometimes I think like, I wish I was like so-and-so, right? Because they're so smart in whatever area, right? But then I also realize like that person doesn't have a creative bone in his body. So maybe that's his forte is whatever that thing is, but my forte happens to be I'm creative, and my weakness happens to be what his strength is. So, there's this, it's either or maybe there's a weird, I don't know. I'd hate to be leveled out because I would be like mediocre in everything, and I'd rather excel in one thing and just admit to being sucky at another thing. But the reason why I bring up creativity is, when there are times when I feel that being creative is a hindrance or some sort of a roadblock in my ability to make decisions. Because if you're creative, you sometimes you need an inspiration and then you create. You go along the process of creating something, and then you get it to a point where this thing is then acceptable. But sometimes acceptable isn't enough, so you have to go a little bit extra to make it better. Enough for you to either display or release or to share or to sell, only for you like the next day to be like, yeah, it's there's more I could do to it. So I see it as creativity being, it's sort of a blessing and a curse, where you're not really settling because you've never really reached that point of like perfection, right? And you strive for it, but then you're like, you're always sort of reaching for it. And sometimes that perfection never comes, and you just sort of like good enough or for that moment. And so, to me, that's sort of the struggle or the challenge of being creative in something. But then I start to take comfort in there's a beauty in being a creator, because, our creator, whether you prescribe to it or not, I prescribe to there being a creator, and the creator, that's their origin. He's the ultimate creator. He's the ultimate creative. He, she, whoever the creator is, didn't have a reference point, didn't have something to copy or to be inspired by. She just created, and here everything is. And so, I think that I start to think that it's cool. It's cool. It's okay to be creative, because in a way you are a creative who is like your creator. You are starting from scratch. You're starting possibly without any reference point, and you're just producing, and it's out of nothing. You make something, and that's beautiful. So just me thinking out loud about things being creative. Well, the holidays have kicked off really early. I remember when I was a kid, there was a build-up for every holiday. And I guess when you're a kid, you have the time to just wait and wait, But as an adult, busy working, you just too much stuff going on. When you have kids, too much stuff going on. Next thing you know, Halloween flies by, Thanksgiving not even here, and you're having to see Christmas decorations and Christmas products on the shelves of stores happening really fast. And each store sees what the other store is doing, and they want to compete, and they want to make sure that they get their take on holiday sales, so they put their stuff just as early as everybody else, or even sooner. What? Yeah, I was just talking to a salesperson at a store, and he felt the same way, but, you know, it is what it is. And if you're working in a store, that's actually doing that. You know, one day you come to work and you're enjoying seeing the Halloween stuff, only to come in the next day and it's like things are flown off the shelves and cleared out, and you're tasked at putting up the next holiday items. So, you know, you're sort of forced into not enjoying a particular moment because work, the things that you're doing, makes it so. You know, so I don't know. You can't fight it. You kind of have to roll with it. For example, you know, my wife and I were doing a lot of this baking, and, you know, gaining interest, having to promote certain themed treats, you know, it has to happen ahead of time, because we have to plan out what can we produce, what do we want to produce, what do we enjoy producing, and then, you know, sort of promote that stuff out, see if anybody's interested. And the people, or the customer, if you will, they need a lead time as far as what they want to be able to do with these things, right? So all of it has to happen ahead of time. So, and for example, when I'm icing cookies that are Christmas themed, right? I enjoy, because the creative side of me, I enjoy sitting down and doing it. It's art, you know. I enjoy it, and part of the way that I enjoy it is I get into the mood, right? So I'll play some streaming Christmas holiday music, you know, and it isn't until I have to sort of take a moment and realize, wow, because of what I'm doing, I'm encouraged to enjoy the Christmas holiday, way before even Thanksgiving has even kicked off, you know? I mean, Thanksgiving really has a bad rap, right? There's no, like, I don't know, there's no, like, set of songs that are Thanksgiving related, or at least if there are, they're not catchy, and they're not sort of like what I grew up as being traditional. You know, you don't have like the musical stars, you know, the singers and stuff, and the bands singing songs about, you know, how they found their loved one on Thanksgiving Day, you know, that kind of stuff. You know? So, yeah, that's just holidays now. Oh well. Hey everybody. So just came back from a trip, Southern Cal trip. Spent 2 nights. It's now the night before Thanksgiving, and as an update, I'm on the road again. I'm gonna pick up a bottle of amaretto and several pounds of bacon. You're thinking, amaretto and bacon? What are you making? Nothing. I'm not making anything. Well, eventually I'll cook the bacon, but that's just like everyday bacon. You know, everyday bacon. The amaretto is something to have in the kitchen. My wife's gonna make something with it, some dessert. So that's why I'm getting that. Yeah. So here's the deal. Man, we had a long drive back from Southern Cal last night. So we checked out early, And we went to actually 3 places before actually driving back up to Northern California. One place was, what was it? It was a bake, some bake shop of some sort, right? My wife was picking up desserts from places in Southern Cal to take to Thanksgiving meat for Thanksgiving with the rest of the family. So something different. And then we stopped off for lunch that day at a Filipino restaurant called Pinoy Pinay. It's good stuff. What did I get? I ate the lechon kawali, which is basically pork belly, skin, fried up. The skin is crisp, and everything else is just awesome. And then we went to another dessert shop called Pie Hole. I love that name. Pie Hole. Shut your pie hole. Remember that? Well, a place called Pie Hole. My wife picked up some stuff there again for Thanksgiving. And yeah. So we did those. We ran those errands and had lunch, and then we made our way back north. Went 3 hours. Went over went through the grapevine. Stopped off at our usual stop at Tejon. The outlets at Tejon. You know, that kind of stuff. This time it was just bathroom break. Get a cup of ice. My wife needed a cup of ice for something. Put her beverage in. And I grabbed another cup of coffee. And while I was in line for coffee at the Starbucks, I get a text from my wife. You know, our youngest, who's who had been napping in her booster, had wet herself. Right? Sucks, right? I'm like, all right, well, I'll help out. I'll help out once I get done with Starbucks and get back over there. So I get my Starbucks coffee and whatever else, and I head back to the vehicle. And then the first thing that comes to mind is, when we go on these trips, we have a bag dedicated for, dirty clothes, soiled, like laundry, right? Used clothes that we've piled up, stuff that you'd ordinarily put in a hamper or whatever, things you need to get laundered. So I started looking for that in the van, and I realized I don't remember packing it. Let me ask my wife, right? Like, hey, do you happen to pack it? And I was unaware. She's like, you didn't pack it? You were in that side of the hotel room. Why didn't you pack it? I'm like, oh man, I got deep trouble because I forgot a big old plastic bag full of our clothes. So it's like, well, what do we do? Kind of was the question. I'm like, oh well, that was my attitude. And my wife was like, I'm not leaving without those. That's our clothes. I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to have to head back. And my mind was thinking, 2 hours that way, then 2 hours back. That's 4 hours. And then so we hit the road, and then realize it ain't 2 hours back and 2 hours the other way. It's 3 hours back to the hotel, and then another 3 hours to get back to where we were. That's 6 hours of additional time. So my wife brought up the idea, why don't you call the hotel and find out if they would actually mail it in a package for us? And I'm like, I'm driving. Go right ahead and call the hotel and find out. Right? So we're driving, no one's made a call. And then an hour into trying to head back to the hotel, I'm like, damn it, I call, right? Like, hey, in the effort to save 4 hours, 5 hours of traveling. It would have been 4 hours at that time, but actually more like 5. Would it be possible for you to mail our stuff? Because I had called earlier and to find out if they had managed to stick it in Lost and Found or something, and they found it, and they were going to have it available for us at the front desk when we arrived. But I'm like, we're not going to make it. 4 hours of additional driving. Is there any way you can mail it to us? And like, oh yeah, we'll just mail it to the car that was on record for the hotel stay. I'm like, perfect. Turned back around, made sure they emailed us or called us back with some sort of tracking info. Yeah, that was rough. It was rough. It was the longest drive ever, and it was a great trip. It's a great trip, long drive. It felt like forever. It was raining, and it started to rain really hard, and made visibility tough. It was getting really, for here, it's getting kind of cold, like in the 40s. Got home about 12:30. ETA from when we sort of tried to correct our route was 12:47. My wife figured, that can't be right. And I'm like, I double-checked the map. It says 12:47. And made some good time and managed to get home by 12:30. It was cold. It was wet. Man, that was rough. That was rough. So anyways, here we are. And I'm going to pick up bacon and amaretto. But I just want to kind of check in. I started the day... I just basically fasted most of the day. Yeah. I think I got 20 hours. And, I trickled... I haven't done it in a long time, but I started the day with just regular coffee, and then I was like, you know what, I need to change it up. So I was like, I feel like coconut oil, but yeah, why don't I make me one of those fat coffees, where I'll make a new batch of French press of Italian roast, and I'll put a heaping tablespoon of coconut oil, tablespoon of Kerrygold butter, and then a good nice splash of heavy cream and a good dash of ground cinnamon. Whip that up in the, after the coffee was all made, put all that stuff in the Vitamix and whip that up pretty good. It resulted in 2 nice full mugs of this coffee. So I enjoyed that in the morning as I decorated cookies. Hey, Mark Thompson, if you're listening, I took a first stab at the airbrush, the art of airbrush. And it isn't what you do, far from what you do. It's just basically taking airbrush and airbrush food gel and, not gel, but food coloring, and using it to color some cookies and stuff. So, yeah, I did that. And so, aside from trickling coffee, I had a Pure Vitamin Club Ultra Salt tab and a nice glass of water, and, kind of like went through the day. Just went through sort of that sort of fast. And it wasn't until, maybe an hour ago, I just had leftovers. And leftovers at our house, fortunately, are some nice steaks. So I had a good amount of steak reheated on a cast iron pan, and I threw in a couple of eggs, and so good. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to have this. I'm going to break my fast. I'm going to enjoy this. There's no reason for me to try and stretch it out to like 24 hours, at least not today. And so, and I sort of monitored myself. I just want to get my health back. I'm not feeling my greatest. I haven't been feeling my greatest, and it just felt like the right time. I think, I had to sort of get over this mental hump of what I call weakness, or it's called don't give a shitness. And don't give a shitness is dangerous, because once you suffer don't give a shitness for too long, then your health kind of suffers. And, I'm kind of tired of feeling like the aches and pains and, the joints hurting and stuff like that. I'm tired of it, And whether it's age or, I'm just dealing with some sort of nutritional gut, autoimmune sort of situation, I'm just slowly shedding the top of my head. So yeah, it's like, And I know that my sense is it's more sort of just my health, and I got to get things straight. And hopefully if I can get things straight, then I don't have to worry about shedding my hair. Thinning my hair. Not ready for that. But if it is, oh well, there's things I could try. And if they don't work, like topical solutions and stuff, then fuck it. Just shave my head and get with the program. Awesome. And that's that. I'm not gonna wish you happy Thanksgiving because I'm not gonna have a Thanksgiving episode. Just gonna say the usual. Hug your friends, hug your family, eat something delicious, and go run. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.